Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Phil Dewey. I'm the founder of Paradox, a paranormal research team out of North Texas. Today, we're going to be talking about the tools of the trade and some basic equipment to get you started and some of the stuff that we like to use and why we use them. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get this one started. Roll that intro. Okay, so today we are here again with Mudrat and Renee, and we're going to start going over some of the tools of the trade that you may see us use in some of our investigative videos and our soon to hopefully be documentary series that we're going to produce. And
it's only an amplifier. It only increases the,
what?
the situation.
The situation.
Yes.
But before we get started on
Men
any of the
use these.
main equipment, I think we really have to talk about the best piece of equipment that you can bring into an investigation is, as weird as it sounds, your body.
Yep.
And I know Chuck has no intuition.
None.
And we like to call him our little void.
I am a void.
But with taking intuition out of your body senses whenever we're in a location, you can still use your temperature gauge when you know when things get cold. You know when.
I mean, I have a portable dowsing rod. I got it with me at all times. It can find the wet.
It finds trouble, is what it
Yes.
finds. It finds trouble.
At least twice in my life, yeah.
Yeah, oh man. All right, we're starting real good this podcast. But realistically, your body is a very good tool to have. I mean, you bring it everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell when it's cold. You can tell when
That I can do.
You can tell if you have any static charge around you, your
Yep.
goosebumps, stuff like that. And I mean, your eyes, your hearing. I mean, that's all stuff that you need to utilize and learn how to use in an investigation before you get involved with any of the equipment. So, because if you rely too much on the equipment, then you're focused on the equipment. You're not really focused about what's going around you.
So true.
So
I
true.
very much agree with that.
Because you can be all up in one of these pieces of equipment and not know that there's an apparition sitting in front of you, waving at you, and you're like, "Oh man, I wonder what this thing's gonna say." So
true.
So I'd like to kind of go into more depth about, excuse me, in what you can expect while you're investigating and how to read your own body without using like intuition, just your natural senses
Goosebumps.
that you can pick up some kind of activity.
Well, I'm just saying your voice gives me goosebumps.
He's getting the kind of feelings.
Yes, he's getting that kind of feeling, I guess.
The dowsing rod is up.
Jesus.
There is trouble that way.
There's trouble that way. So, like we said, goosebumps is a real big indicator. If you're sitting in a location and there's no breeze, there's no ambient electric charge, and then all of a sudden you're trying to communicate with someone, every hair on your body stands up. I mean, we've all experienced that in a location.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when we're not even investigating, something just comes by and it's like, zzz, and you're like, hey, whoa.
Do it again.
That's different. So when you start investigating, you really have to start to feel when your body changes. And if you start noticing that you are using other pieces of equipment and those things are coinciding with your body's reaction to certain situations, then you might be getting some kind of paranormal activity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can start tuning in your body to picking stuff up without using intuition.
Yeah, I mean, you got natural made knobs. You kind of just tune it right in.
Yep. And that's your temperature control.
It is. Well,
Yep.
That's when you know that it's cold in the room when I'm walking in. I'm like, guys, it is definitely chilly in here.
Indicators are on.
Indicators are on. The temperature changed.
Hey, that's how it works, man. It's a little trio. See, that's how that works.
He's got a triad over there. So we're going to start getting into some more of this information and more of the technical aspects of stuff. I will be throwing down definitions of stuff at the bottom later on while I edit this.
Thank God for those
So-
who can read.
Yeah, in case you don't understand exactly what we are talking about, you can read
This is my first experience.
it.
Trust me, I'm telling you, whenever I first started learning all of this, definitions, important. A majority of the time, it's just that information right over my head.
Don't be afraid to ask ever. Anybody,
Yes.
if somebody uses a term that you are unfamiliar with, we're not going to think that you're stupid. We are going to laugh at you and point, but we will give you the truth and the information.
Yep. That being said, I actually learned one today too. And that when Chuck talks about the electromagnetic fields and stuff like that, I had to ask him, I'm like, what does that actually mean? Because I've never found out what it meant. So
Yeah, and it was really hard for me to find out, and then it was kind of
weird.
it was a letdown.
Yeah.
It was a letdown.
But I'll disappoint you later.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to start off with Renee, I think. And the one thing that she was kind of, I don't want to say lost, but was really confused
Yeah,
at when
so-
was EVPs.
Yeah, it was at the very, very beginning because so we have the equipment. It's, you have your voice recorders, you have your most generic, this is just the little guy on the go, or we have the other one, just a little bit larger, does the same thing as well.
I don't know what you're trying to say here.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm trying to describe these. So they're both
One's
Zoom
big, one's small.
technology. I know. So they're both Zoom recording devices.
Right.
So with these recording devices, they can capture anything, supposed to just carry around, have it on. With the electronic voice phenomenon, this is what they're going to capture. When recording these, I've noticed reviewing with Phil and Chuck, there's different types of classes.
Yep.
So you have A, B, and C. So your A is going to be your number one top quality, and your C is going to be the one that's barely recognizable. It's going to be your whispers, your nice low tones, and C is probably your number one most disregarded.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Because you technically can't really say that it was something. But
I'm C class.
so also that being said, is I'm not only the founder of Paradox, but I am also the tech specialist because I am a nerd when it comes to cameras and tech stuff. So there's different types of recorders, and you'll get different types of EVPs per recorder.
Mhm.
So if you buy a lower budget recorder, and you can also use any kind of memo stuff that's on your phones, and depending on how that microphone is, you'll get different types.
Just to clarify, because she was talking bigger and smaller one, they all get the job done.
Yeah, they all get the job.
Yeah,
done.
they're
They
all the
get
same.
Yeah.
It's just some is just a little
You're
bit of a
tech
higher
shaming me.
quality.
You're tech shaming. So the two that we have sitting over there are Zoom, so they're more on the professional side of audio. So you're going to get cleaner audio for voice tones like the person asking the question,
Mhm.
which will kind of eliminate those C and B
Factors
EVPs.
out of it. Mhm.
So you'll pick up mostly voice tone.
Especially
So-
if you did like one of those dead cats to it.
Yeah, especially because then all that wind noise and stuff. Now, you see a lot of on these TV shows is they use these mono channel recorders, which means that instead of having two microphones that record around you, they have that one that's just built in. And there's a lot of static that's in the background of those microphones.
Mm.
And that's where you're going to get a lot of those class B and C recorders. So whatever you're trying to find and get is probably going to be able to, depending on your microphone.
Mhm.
Because if you have a high quality super mic like that with the bigger zoom, you're going to probably catch you talking most of the time
Mhm.
and not catching a lot of the EVPs unless it's a super class A
Mhm.
and maybe a high class class
Class
B,
B.
where you can hear vocal tones, but you can't really discern what it's saying. But yes, so EVPs are one of the foundations of paranormal investigation. It's a very important part of it. I think everybody that's starting off in paranormal, that's the first thing that they do because all their phones have
Mhm.
voice
Mhm.
recorders or anything like that. So you can just go into a location with your phone, hit your voice memo, and do an EVP session.
Mhm.
So I think that's kind of a really cool thing for people to get started. And like Renee said, she's when she first started, she didn't know what EVP stood for. She didn't know there was different classes of it. And
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought EVPs were just one thing, just record what your discussion is, and then just play it back and listen to it.
That's still how I treat it.
yes, and unfortunately, from my time in the military and with my occupation as a mechanic, those lower class C's and partially those class B's, I really cannot hear them anymore.
Mm-mm.
Unfortunately. So if it's a class, if it's not a class A, then I can't really hear it.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's
my butt.
so I did get that one. I have to find that one and play it for the people here. But I did get a class A EVP from Gonzales Jail in Gonzales, Texas, in the shower section that said "ow my ass."
Beep.
That is great.
I
Little late.
totally beeped her
A
out.
little late.
A little late, and totally beeped her out for it.
Oh, well.
But that kind of leads into the next topic. Unless you have more on your EVPs that you would like to get out.
No, I think that pretty much covered it. It really was just like the main thing once starting. It's that one of those things when you're a hunter and then you start going into an investigator. That's one of
Right.
those things. That's one of the main things that I started noticing when making that transition.
Yes, and that I can see that totally. So another basic tool that an investigator will probably use early on is the EMFs.
Mhm.
Anything that can detect the EMF. So we're going to let Chuck talk about the EMF detectors because he seems to like a lot of the EMF detectors.
It's going to rain. I don't,
Family Guy.
Where am I supposed to go with this?
Yeah, right.
No, the EMF is basically, let's see here. The I can't even speak today. Electromotive force is basically what the EMF stands for, or the electromagnetic fields, depending on who you talk to on
Right.
which way they're going to want to say what the definition of that is. Long and short of it, I am not one of the techie guys. So I like them because I can't hear the stuff like the EVP very well. Plus, I'm normally too loud and talking myself, so I don't hear any of the stuff because, I'm in my own world. Like, hey. But I like these little visual ones that do like the EMF meters, like the K2. With that, basically, it gives you the different readings. Say you're in an area and you put this up. It's a good way to like check to see if there's anything electronic in the area. So we can debunk that. That's why this is there. It starts to basically go up on the little LED lights whenever it's getting close to something like, say, a cell phone. Can
Yep.
set it off. Like cords, different things like that. So it's great for debunking things.
Mhm.
Right.
But using the same kind of technology and thought process, they have things that are called REM pods, which is what I really like just because I'm a visual person.
Right.
Plus, I can see it and hear it from across the room typically.
Mhm.
Most of the REM pods that, you run into are things kind of like this. This one's very big and chunky, but it's also good because not only does it do basically the magnetic stuff, it also does like a temperature.
Right.
That's
So,
cool.
it's great for getting more information on something that's small. Now, I like the smaller one just because it's easier to carry around and it does the same thing. Now, what a REM pod basically stands for is it
This is the one that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was kind of disappointed with what it stood for.
Honestly,
yeah.
same, because that was also, I found out today what that stood for.
Yeah. It's
It kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah,
Y'all better be prepared for this.
All it stands for is the radiating electromagneticity, which is not even a word.
no.
But that's what the person who, I guess if you discover, create something, you get to name it whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, exactly.
But basically, the whole purpose of it is it radiates electromagnetic field. So if something upsets that field, it shows it on the actual sensor. So
Right.
like this one has the light on, and of course you get a further range whenever you actually put the antenna up. So say if you're out there and it's just sitting there and something comes near it, you hear and you start to see it.
Yep.
But something is out of the area, nothing. Comes close, it does the same. And there's several different forms and styles of this. I mean, this one is my absolute favorite right now. This one is very annoying. And my watch is sorry
Your
for
watch
this
is sorry.
particular one right here. It knows my pain. No, this one just, the sound on it is just ear piercing. And I mean, it's great, I guess, if you're going to put it in a place where
You're far away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you
this
wanna
is,
hear it.
I've accidentally going through his case of equipment, trying to figure out, this
Mhm.
was like, I think the second time we went to Haunted Hill House.
Yep.
And I turned it on, and oh my goodness, it's like an actual like security
Yes.
alarm.
Really? That loud?
It's
very.
I haven't
You
heard
know-
that one yet. so.
There's a reason. I don't ever
Yeah.
use it
No.
for that reason. Now,
no.
it would be great for like when we get one of these bigger places to put
Yeah.
it, in another room on another floor, because we will
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah, you will
Okay.
hear it through the floor.
That way we know, hey,
It's-
quickly go over there. But
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
really like using it that much. This one is also kind of a fancy one because I like that it had more LEDs. That way it has kind of a more,
Variability.
yes, to show you, how close something is.
I like
but-
that too.
The problem is I don't know if it's with this one, it's just doesn't seem to be as effective.
Okay.
Like you really, like I had it written next to my phone. It's not even lighting up.
Yeah.
But at the same point, if it is start lighting up, then you
then you
have-
know something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and those kind of go into the same aspect as the doll.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can take
Yes.
show Raggedy Ann because that's one of
I'll
our
let
favorite.
you have that over
Okay.
there.
okay.
But yeah, Raggedy Ann is fantastic. There's several different versions of that because there's also like the Boo Bear,
Which I
and-
did not bring, but we do have a Boo Bear as well.
Yes, but I like the Raggedy Ann because thinking about it, most spirits are something from days gone by, and the Raggedy Ann is something that is much more at home for them than a more modern looking bear. Now, with the more modern looking bear, you also do get it talking and communicating with it,
right.
where the Raggedy Ann you do not.
Right. And I think that we didn't really take in consideration. The Boo Bear came out and I was like, oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
But it is effective if you put it in a location with a smaller recorder and just leave it run.
Yes,
Mhm.
leave it by itself.
Leave it by itself somewhere and let the bear, because the bear will I think it's like every
30
seconds, it will say a
Come
something.
play with me.
Come play with me. I'll
Yeah.
count 1 to 2 and then can you finish it? And then A, B, C, what's your favorite, color? And
Yeah.
but it also will say stuff when something is interacting with it.
Yes.
So like if it got cold in the room, it says "Brr, I'm cold." Or
Mhm.
if it gets touched by something, it says, "Oh, I like being tickled." Or did you did you touch me? Or so if you leave it somewhere,
Elmo.
if you leave it somewhere, then it definitely can do an investigation all on its own.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's great to have in the repertoire of, equipment that we have,
Yep.
Mhm.
but it's not something that, like, if we're just trying to rush out, I'm going to make sure to grab.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
And
that's something that's got to be more modern.
Mm-hmm.
like if you know that you're going to a location that has a area that there's children spirits,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be a good piece of equipment just to put in there and leave it in there for an hour or so.
Mhm.
And then the cat balls, you can go into
Yes.
cat balls since you
Yes.
got one right there.
Cat balls are fantastic.
Cheap, too.
They're very cheap.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can, this is your friend because you can buy it for pennies on the dollar. You buy a bunch of them and you put them out there. Basically, it's a cat toy. So whenever it's just sitting there still, it doesn't go off. But if something touches it, well, there we go. I messed it up
Turned
there.
it
But it goes off. So basically it's great to have around visually.
Yep.
Mhm.
So it's something that things can play with. Also, you can do like yes, no questions. Now the problem is when it's set off, it runs for like 30 seconds or something like that. So
Yeah,
Right,
it's just
right.
delayed.
it's really annoying because it consumes a lot of time. But for visual, like if you want to kind of put them down like little landmines.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That way, if something's starting to come near you and happens to set it off, you're like, oh, what was that over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a heads up. For those people who are like that, I see it. I'm like, ooh, hey, what's going on over there?
And again,
So-
very good for beginner investigators and ghost hunters because you can buy like a 20 pack of them for
Mhm.
like $40,
Yeah.
if
Oh,
not
yeah.
less.
Probably,
If-
yeah, it was like probably even less.
Yeah,
like
I think
20
it-
bucks.
I think a 20 pack was like $15.99 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's definitely look up cat balls if you're getting started.
And if you lose them,
They're not that expensive.
Yeah. It's not that bad.
And note that I've heard a lot of people say that they usually lose at least 2 cat balls per investigation,
Yep.
whether it be from that the spirits like it and just tuck it away somewhere, or
You just forgetful.
somebody's walking through a hallway and kicks the crap out of it and it goes flying down. And
Yeah.
and nobody's like, oh,
gone.
Yeah, but then you tell the guy who owned it, like, dude, maybe it was the spirit who took it. I don't know.
Yeah. But again, they're cheap and they're very effective. And whenever they go off, you get excited when you see it.
You do.
Oh, yeah.
I'm all about the visuals.
Yes, he is. And
visually stimulated.
I'm going to go into a little bit. It's kind of a cross between the both of them. And that's the ITC communication. And that's the ITC stands for instrumental transcommunication. And it's pretty much communication with the spirits through any form of technology.
I love it.
Including EVPs and REM pods and stuff like that. But where you usually hear the ITC communication from are from some of these apps on your phone, which you have to take apps with a grain of salt.
Yes.
I did not like apps for the longest time until we found 2 that we absolutely love. And all the other ones kind of, we'll leave it at that. But
we can't, it's a basis of trust. When you do research into it, you figure out, oh, okay, well, this is how they set that up. That actually makes more sense. That's not just some randomness that they're putting in there, to spook people out.
Or like an AI that can answer your questions. So, and we'll get into one of those apps later on. But I'm going to talk most about the stuff that I really love. And that's the Ovilus, the Tempest, and the EDI Plus. And I'm a big fan being a tech guy. And if I can consolidate stuff where a piece of equipment can do multiple things at once, so I don't have to bring so much equipment with me.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not
it's not being lazy.
It is for me because, you go to a place where you're hiking like 3 miles. Yeah, you want as
little
as
possible.
And I'm lazy.
So those, I did not bring my Ovilus with me, but pretty much anybody who's watched any TV show or YouTube channel knows what an Ovilus is.
Yeah.
So the Ovilus takes an electromagnetic energy source, and depending on the source, will either pick a word from a database and put it out. And sometimes it's relevant, sometimes it's not. But there's also why I still use the Ovilus is that there's a mode on the Ovilus, which is called phonetic mode. So basically, instead of taking that electromagnetic signal and turning it into a word from a database, it actually puts it into a phonetic noise that the speaker makes on its own. So, yeah, you do get a little bit more static noise and static like skirts and and stuff like that. But there's been multiple occasions that I have gotten direct answers and direct sentences from my question that were relevant. And that's what I really like about it, because these words that are coming across, they're just words from a data bank. And sometimes you have to take that with a grain of salt, because the word that's coming out may not be the word that the spirit was trying to say, but it was the closest to that reading. So like when you ask a question in phonetic mode and you get a straight yes, it's hard not to believe that that was not the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, it has the YES sound.
Yes.
And it sounds like a voice telling you that. I've gotten, like, I'll try to find the EVPs when we go into more in depth on these pieces of equipment in some future episodes. But I have a recording where I asked somebody in an abandoned hospital here in Dallas, I'm not getting out. What are you going to do about it? And in phonetic mode, not word bank mode, it said, hurt you. And so that was a direct response. It wasn't like, oh, it just picked a word. It picked 2 words or used phonetic energy or electromagnetic energy to make it say hurt you. So that was pretty cool. And I have a bunch of these EVPs and
hell yeah
recordings of phonetic mode. So if you have an Ovilus and you've never tried phonetic mode, I highly recommend it. But you do have to deal with a little bit of random static noise that comes through every once in a while. But when you get those direct responses from that phonetic mode, it's a payoff.
Mhm.
It is. So we have something that's very similar to the Ovilus, but like I said, we really like things that can do multiple things at once. So this is called the Tempest, and I think we got this one from the Ghost Hunter store.
Yes.
And it's pretty much the Ovilus. If I can get it to the screen.
You have to be better with your fingers. Sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can change it to word bank. You can change it to phrases, which we love it on phrases because you'll get a full phrase like, you're not welcome here. You're welcome here. I think when we were down in Burleson, or was it Burleson?
Which I don't know.
When
which
we
one.
went into the Baker house and I was complimenting the structure of the house and it came across and said, you're welcome to stay.
Yes, that was at the Baker.
Okay. And it just,
What did it tell you now?
I'm sure.
I'm going to try to show the camera. It said booty. and I just put it up to the camera and it just said monitors.
Nice. Well, we got something in the room with us. It's our fourth host.
We call him Fred.
Fred.
Yeah,
all right.
there's a little spirit that hangs out in the crawl space.
Oh, the creepy
Oh
closet.
yeah,
Gotcha.
that's the
one-
one.
yeah.
It's like the second time I was here, I was like looking over there, and then he told me about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my daughter used to see him when she stayed here with my parents because we do right now. We're kind of Wayne's Worlding stuff. We're in an extra room at my parents' house, so we're not in the basement. We're actually upstairs. But until we
It's
can
the
get
South.
our
There's
own
not a lot of
studio,
basements here.
I've never seen Wayne's World.
Holy
Oh,
crap!
Jesus.
I just don't.
you get a bra.
We all know I don't really watch movies or TV like that, so
I don't know what you're doing with your
So
life.
I have a feeling that now that we're
Books.
bringing some equipment out, I think Fred's going to probably come out and try to talk because he's talking about the booty, the monitors, and now
mean,
kids. Because I was talking about the kids that my daughter used to have spend the night with her and have sleepovers. Would see
I
the
just want
spirit.
to go back to the booty. Who's he talking about on this one?
Probably you, man.
I'm hoping not.
Because I got no ass.
But
oh
Renee.
no, it was probably listening to the story that you were talking about earlier.
Which one?
The nunnapies
Oh, the nunnapies with the butt.
with the
oh,
little
wait.
butt.
And it said preliminary. So
anyways, back onto the story.
Back onto the story. So this device right here, as you can tell, is, and I'm not saying that we're talking to a spirit right now because we do have lights and cameras and
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that it could be picking up. We're just making jokes about Fred.
Just jokes.
So, but basically, this is like an Ovilus. It takes electromagnetic energy and puts it into a word bank or puts it into a phrase. It does not have phonetic mode. You can hear it kind of just spurting off because it's picking up all this stuff. But not
Mhm.
only that, it reads out the humidity, the temperature, the dew point, and barometric pressure.
Mhm.
So you can also slide an SD card into it and it will record each session and it will record when these words are said, what those conditions were. So you can actually have factual data from each word, each
Mhm.
phrase to see
Mhm.
what changed to cause that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You can put it on the alphabet as well.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, there is alphabet mode, but
So
I
it could
don't think
actually
there's a
spell it out.
phonetic mode though.
No,
right?
there's not a
There's no
phonetic.
phonetic. What you have is words and phrases.
Right. I can't get it turned off now.
Just press and hold.
I have that problem too. I can't get anything to
Hospitality.
get turned off.
Okay, so that one is probably one of our favorite. Renee loves walking around with that.
She
one.
does.
Yes, I've had a lot of success with the Tempest.
Excuse me.
So it's like understanding like the randomness that comes from all the electronic things around you. I've gotten very direct answers. I
Right.
know Chuck's been there with me on a couple of instances. I'm like, hey, psst, psst, look at this right now.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'll have it on and running. People are just having conversations around.
Mhm.
And it's like trying to talk to us like it's part of the group.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, that's creepy.
Yeah, we had that at Hill House at one time where
Mhm.
we weren't
Yeah.
even thinking about it, because we were using for stuff like the Estes.
Mhm.
But then we just at the end of the night we went and sat in the living room and we were just BSing
Yeah, we were
back and
just
forth.
Yeah.
chatting together, and I just had it on the arm of the chair next to me and just running, just joining in on that conversation.
Answering right in.
It
Yeah.
we were talking like this for like 30, 45 minutes and it just continuously
Yep.
joining the conversation.
And side note here that sometimes when you're in an investigation, that is one heck of a way to get stuff to start communicating with you, because you're going to go on about your day or your time and
Mhm.
have a conversation. They may try to hop in and have part of that conversation. So a good practice is whenever you're having those conversations, take a digital voice recorder and put it down somewhere in that area, because you will probably pick up some EVPs
Absolutely.
of spirits communicating with you. So another piece of the equipment, again, that I absolutely love, it's not technically ITC bound, but that is the EDI Plus. I call him Little Eddie. So again, it has EMF, it has a temperature, it has humidity, it has barometric pressure, and see those lights, it has vibration. So you can set this up on a table with a camera on it, and it can show you what's changing. And then if there's any vibrations, if the temperature changes, it will either go blue or red. If the pressure goes off, if it changes in here, it will change. That light will go off, and then the humidity light. And again, I'll get a little screenshot and put it up for our viewers to see. It has an SD card slot in there, so you can put an SD card in there and have a recording of all your data. Again, so when you're reviewing the cameras, if you have a camera on your crew, a camera on this, you can go back to that exact time and see what changed in the room.
It's all about documentation.
Yeah.
And these are some of the things that you'll probably get more once you get into that investigator side of the paranormal. When you're a ghost hunter, you're not really into the whole data.
I did not even think about at the time, like very first, just inside the house, I didn't even think about the temperature. I didn't even think about the humidity. I didn't even think about any of that. It's just, wow, it feels kind of stuffy in here. That's it. That is the only
What's
thing that
that
crossed my
smell?
mind. Yeah.
Oh, it's Phil again.
No, that's sulfur. Okay, it's Phil again.
It's the bowels of hell. What the heck?
So there's all of this equipment. This is a spirit box. This is used for ITC communication, but also EVPs, because you can record them coming across there. And this will just sweep through radio stations at a set rate that you feel that you want to listen to it at. And you have to listen to the voices that are between those radio stations and try to hear. This one takes a little bit of practice to get used to, because a lot of people will hear some of those radio stations and think that those are the voices.
Yeah.
But you really have to listen to between the radio stations. That's why I like them when they sweep a little bit faster. So there's limited amount. But some of the newer ones are coming out with adapters that you can actually cut out all that static noise, and then you just hear the voices that come through, which is very cool. And like I said, right now, with the amount of technology that's coming through for the paranormal, because it's getting so much bigger and it's getting so much more backing from people who are geniuses with electronics.
Absolutely.
They will create stuff that's going to make it easier for us to hear stuff. Now, I have a couple pieces of equipment that I started off with a long time ago from a genius, which right at the moment, he no longer makes his paranormal equipment.
Oh.
And that's some first edition Jeremy Jones Paranologies equipment. This was the Geofoam, and this is just a vibration sensor. Has no other features to it. Just you set it down somewhere in front of a camera or in a camera view, and it lights up whenever it feels any vibration. You can,
Yeah, no, that'd be great for like tracking footsteps and
Exactly.
especially movement.
Exactly.
That'd be very, very useful.
So I still use this one. And again, these are like, I want to say 15, maybe 16 years old now. They're first editions. He's got newer stuff out right now. And then this one right here is his first edition Periscope, which is a electrostatic meter. So as you can tell, let's get little Raggedy Ann over here and see if I can. Actually, Ludo's probably better for this. Hold on. So with the static, it lights up. So one of the theories is that with spirits, they create static electricity. So this one here will light up as it starts reading static electricity, and as it gets brighter, it's how strong the, oh, there we go.
It's all in you.
Yep, it's feeling my static electricity,
You're
probably off of Ludo.
electric.
I'm electrified.
Well, that also being said, it's a common belief that the spirits, they feed off of energy.
That's
Yes.
true.
So they have also things out there which are very controversial, like the ghostly energy pump.
Yes, energy pumps.
I have one. I don't ever use it, but I have it. Just I was buying everything I could just to kind of have out
Test
there.
stuff out.
But a lot of people hate these
Yep.
because they think it interferes with such things, and of course, then the shadow
Detector.
detector basically will set this thing off, and it plays some creepy music. Now this one's I have used this one before. It's not so bad because if say like a shadow something goes by or causes the light to break, it will go off. So this one has actually been a little bit of fun.
Okay.
But yeah, that ghost pump, they're out there.
Yeah, they're out there, and there are some that I think personally would work. Like
Mhm.
if you're talking like Jacob's
Along
ladders
that
and
line,
Teslas.
yeah, that's what I was about to refer to. The Tesla coils, isn't
Yes.
that the exact same thing supposed to be amplifying the energy it's
Yes,
surrounding?
it's
Yes.
feeding the energy out for them
Okay.
to take off of, so that way they're not taking away from the individuals.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the theory on that. A lot of places don't like you to bring EM pumps in
Mhm.
because they don't want you to supercharge any of the entities. I know there's a couple locations that we go that they're like, hey, you
Yeah.
can if you want, but we're not liable for any of the energy anything that happens.
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk about some general good practices with some of these equipments, especially again, this is like a paranormal 101 class
Mhm.
for the people that are thinking about getting in. When you use your EVP recorders or digital voice recorders, you can do it in a multiple different ways. A general good practice is to always have somebody recording 24 or not, I don't want to say 24/7, but the entire investigation.
Yes.
Because there's things you can do with your EVP recorder or your digital voice recorder that are called burst sessions.
Mhm.
And that's where you record for a certain amount of time and then stop and then review it.
Mhm.
But when you do that, if you don't have another recorder going, you
You're
might
gonna
miss something else.
Mhm.
So it's always good to have another recorder going at the same time. And you don't have to do burst sessions. You don't. But some people like to see that more instant response.
instant
Yes.
gratification.
Right. And because that can lead you towards what your next set of questions might be.
Mhm.
That also at a certain point you start getting so bored, you're like, oh, I need something.
That's very
please.
true. So a technique that I like to use whenever I'm in a location and an activity starting is I usually like to try to use a EM, a REM pod, or some of these kind of pieces of equipment first, or a millimeter, which is another multi recorder kind of thing with temperature and vibration. And it even has its own little REM pod built into it. Try to get some basic responses with that, then start progressing into, like, we have some devices that we'll go into on a more advanced one,
Mhm.
which are more yes, no questions,
Mhm.
where you can have them light up one side of it for yes, one side of it for no. And then I kind of go from the REM pods to that because that's more of a direct.
Mhm.
And then I start going more into some of the other stuff that are more like touch based, like touch that,
Yes.
or at that point, if you feel comfortable with me when you build that trust up, because that's a big part of paranormal investigation is you have to build that trust with the spirit. So then you can get a little bit more on some of these shadow sensors or stuff like we have a G2, which we'll go into, which is a laser
I
grid
love that one.
that also maps out what's inside the laser grid.
Mhm.
And it also has a temperature gauge. So if it's colder than room temperature, it shows up blue. If it's warmer than room temperature, it shows up red. So if you can get that trust and they come in, which we have gotten figures moving around in there blue, so they were colder than
Mhm.
Yeah, I
room
had a
temperature.
wonderful story of that.
Yeah, if you want to tell it, go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, might as well, since we're on that topic.
It's an
Yeah.
awesome story.
It was. So we were guests, of course, as hosts at the Haunted Hill House. I was with one of them upstairs, felt really, really light. We had set it up. Oh my gosh, I wish we put a camera on this. This was absolutely great. We were
It was just to be sure, it wasn't our investigation, so we didn't like set up like it was our investigation.
Yeah, I know.
So we kind of just was there to kind of facilitate a
Entertain.
good time
yes.
for the guests.
And by goodness, we did. So this was it was kind of slow. There wasn't really anything going on. And so we were just trying to bring any sort of activity. She started singing and dancing. And I'm like, might as well start singing and dancing. We started doing the Macarena. And on the little G2, you can see these two little kids, like one up closer, one a little bit farther back, closer to the doorway. And you can just see their arms like this and then go down and then back up like this, like trying to mimic the movements. But the G2 is only just like arms up, arms down, arms up, arms down. And you could see the two figures. One went away, then it was just one, and it got closer. And of course, you could see it, the different shades, just doing the Macarena with us.
Yeah, and at the same time.
Yeah, we were downstairs with another guest.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Jacob's room, and we were hearing little kids laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, were those little kids? Were those little kids? And then next thing you know, we're getting a radio call from Renee saying, hey, we're up here and pretty much right above us, a little bit
over to
catty
the side.
corner to the side, but right above us. And they're saying that there's figures doing the Macarena with them. So again, you know, equipment is always good to have to document stuff. But again, sometimes you have to use your body to get everything going.
Well, and that also being said, be aware of what you're saying and doing, because you walk into a place and you're just getting excited and you're like, spirits, yo, you need some energy, take it from me.
Yes, you have to be very careful.
You don't
want
to do stuff like that.
I'm guilty of that at some point.
I know. Like there was one time where we thought you might go down because they were sucking too much energy out of you.
Yeah,
yes.
So
I remember that.
That was like one of our first or second investigations as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, go ahead if you need some energy. And then,
they took it.
They took it.
They sure took it.
They took it, but it ramped up the night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it did.
sure did.
It did. But with that, also bring up the fact that, again, know what you're doing.
Yep.
And when you leave, make sure you have taken the precautious steps to make sure something doesn't go with you, do too much damage.
Yes.
We have the red box.
Yeah. Our oak box.
Exactly. And we always do cleansings before we leave. We don't go and try to clear a house for anybody. That's not our thing.
No.
But we do have all the items for so many different denominations and beliefs. That way we can cover just about anybody and anything to make sure that they're going home alone.
Yes, because some of these places, and you also have to remember, you just don't cleanse yourself. You have to cleanse your equipment because there's times where something might like that piece of equipment so much that it's like, I'm going to go home with that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Raggedy Ann is guilty of that a couple times too, because, they love Raggedy Ann.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But another couple good practices to get into before you even start an investigation is, one, if you're okay to do a group prayer, make sure everybody's protected.
Prayer protection.
If you're not into prayer and you're not into religion, if somebody wants to pray over you, it's kind of good just to kind of let them do it, because you don't want to start that drama at the very beginning.
Yeah. And what harm is it doing to you just to stand there and be silent?
Now, granted, if it's different domination or religions and stuff like that, then I can see where if somebody's like, I don't, that's not my religion.
That's not my thing, but let me do my thing.
Yeah, let me do my thing. But another good thing, and this will set the tone pretty much for the whole night. And Renee and I did this a couple of times. Whenever we get into a location, we address the house, or we address the location.
Addressing the house and setting the intentions.
Right. We set our intentions. We let everybody know, or every spirit or everybody that's there, hey, we're just here to hear your story. We're not here to hurt you. We're not here to get rid of you. We're not here. And that usually sets the tone. Because if something's afraid of you, it might act different than, hey, I just want to know your story.
Well, that's why I let you guys do it, because I'll be like, dude, I'm here to party. And, I just mess up the whole night.
Along those lines, I'm just like thinking back to this, addressing the house, setting the intentions. The main spirit box at the Haunted Hill House addresses our names very, very frequently.
Yeah.
Very much.
It likes you guys. Like I said, I don't think it even sees me, but that's a whole different story.
Yes, that's a whole nother story. But basically, Chuck is our void. If things get a little bit too hairy or a little bit too intense, we send Chuck in and it calms everything right down.
Yeah.
Things just don't happen around me. I mean,
They happen
It
around
does,
you.
Yeah,
but
around me,
it
not
won't
to
to
me.
you
Yeah.
directly.
And the other thing, they do communicate. Like they answer, like with the SS method, I do a lot of the questioning because they answer me directly. Now they talk about you guys a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they do actually answer my questions a lot of the time. So.
Yeah. So, you know, having your intention when you go into an investigation is a very important one. You don't want to run in, kick the door open to a house or one of these places you rent and be like berating the spirits there because, you know, you're in their area. It's their location. It's their house. It's their living space, if you want to call it that.
That's a good way to end up getting choked in the boiler room.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did on that. Like we talked on our one of our last episodes is
that's
I went
right.
in there and I was like, okay, Yorktown, you're my and I'm going to get some stuff and blah, blah, blah. Next thing I know, when I'm in that boiler room, something's got its hand wrapped around my neck and pushing me. And I'm not saying like, oh, I got woozy and I fell against the wall that was right behind me. I was like 2 or 3 feet away from that wall. And it like pushed me into the wall. And I felt like I was getting choked until I apologized.
That is insane.
And
Kumquat.
yeah, I would have, if I had my safe word back then, the kumquat, it would have been
established that in the beginning. Always establish the safe word.
Well, I didn't have that safe word at that time because I was still new.
Well, now you know.
Because at that point, I don't
With
think
all
I was
things,
technically
safe
an
word.
investigator. I think I was more the ghost hunter.
True.
Because, you know, like I think we've had that conversation on here, right?
Yeah.
That there's a certain point to when you get to, all right, I'm going to take this a step further and become an investigator. And I wasn't there yet because I was still running in there, kicking doors open and saying, what up? I want to get some of this action and you're going to give it to me. And you never get a good reaction whenever
were you
do
looking
that.
in my eyes when you said that?
I don't know.
I mean,
you like intimidating the spirits.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why he's looking at you.
I don't intimidate. I just walk in and I'm me.
Yeah. So it's always good to address.
Yeah.
It's always good to address the
Undress
house.
the house. All right.
Chuck's in a different kind of investigation mode right now.
No kidding.
We come in, he's doing a solo again.
The dowsing rod is up.
His indicators are on.
His indicators are on and the dowsing rod's finding
The
trouble.
triad's here.
So, and the triad. So hopefully this wasn't too long of an episode because it is a little bit longer than some of our others, but we kind of got into it. And when we get further into the equipment and some of the other stuff when we're talking about, we're going to go in depth into some of these pieces of equipment, that, especially if it's a new piece of equipment that we got and it's actually awesome.
Oh, we got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, which we got a lot of stuff that we're testing out still, and we don't want to bring straightforward. Like we have a couple pieces of equipment that we're new, but we're not 100% sure on how well they
test
work.
them.
So
Test
we're
them.
going to test them. We're going to test them before we bring up. We'll have video clips. We'll have
Yeah, I mean,
stuff like
we'll
that.
do clips on like each individual thing so you can go in depth detail. That way, if somebody has a question about that particular one, if they want to buy it or not, we'll be like, yes or no, or in our opinion, because you know, we don't want to be down on anybody's gear, you know.
Right.
Yeah, and
'cause-
at the same time, we still have to discover what's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a part of just testing it out.
Yes, very much so. And if you have any questions about any of the equipment that we've
Send us a message.
Went over today, send us a message. We'll put our email at the bottom and at the end of the episode and in the link.
Podcast equipment.
And just in the subject, right? Podcast equipment. And if you have a question about it or any insight on how you've used it, if you've got it, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we want to hear that feedback.
Yeah, we want to bring this just isn't a journey for us. It's a journey for everybody. So we want to bring you involved into the podcast and into our show.
Well, and a shameless plug here. Make sure you go like our YouTube, our TikTok, our Facebook, and share with your friends. Get them all to do it.
Yep.
We want them all.
The more people we get to watch this show and the more people we can reach, the more stuff we can bring you, the more information we can get on topic with you.
I mean, we might even make a calendar.
I don't know about that one. I don't know any.
Meet and greets.
meet and greet. So
Whoa, I'm letting that one go.
Come on, I set it
so
up.
thanks for joining us. Hopefully you learned a little bit, and hopefully it wasn't too redundant for some of our more experienced investigators. We'll see you in the shadows. See you
in the
next time.
shadows.
See ya.